The rain came down in cold sheets that July evening in Connecticut, soaking through my thin jacket as I stood motionless on the curb outside the house where I had grown up. My single suitcase sat at my feet like a silent witness, and I watched the familiar porch light click off with a finality that cut deeper than any words could. I was 32 years old, a financial analyst who had always believed blood was thicker than water. But in that moment I understood I had been erased from the family story entirely. My name is Sophia Bennett, and until that night, I had spent years trying to earn a place at the table that was never meant for me. Growing up in our quiet suburban neighborhood just outside Hartford, I was the older daughter who never quite fit the mold. My younger sister Brooke, 3 years behind me at 29, was the one everyone adored. Brooke had the effortless charm, the perfect Instagram-ready smile, and the kind of personality that made people want to give her the world. Our mother, Margaret, a former beauty queen turned stay-at-home perfectionist, poured every ounce of her energy into polishing Brooke's image. My father, Victor, a retired real estate developer who had built a comfortable fortune buying and flipping commercial properties, treated Brooke's every wish like a command from above. From the time we were small, the differences were stark. When I brought home straight A's and honor roll certificates, the praise was polite but brief. When Brooke won a local modeling contest at 14, the whole house erupted in celebration with balloons, cake, and a new wardrobe. I learned early that my accomplishments were expected, while Brooke's were celebrated. College followed the same pattern. I graduated with honors from Boston University with a degree in finance, landing my first analyst job right away. My parents attended the ceremony but left early for a prior commitment. Brooke dropped out of community college after one semester to find herself through travel and influencer content, and they threw her a lavish send-off party complete with custom t-shirts and a rented photo booth. The favoritism only deepened as we entered adulthood. Brooke met Derek Caldwell, a slick investment banker with perfectly styled hair and a charm that felt rehearsed, and my parents welcomed him like a long-lost son. Derek quickly learned how to play the game, whispering suggestions to my father about keeping me at arm's length from family financial decisions because my instability might risk their portfolio. I overheard one of those conversations in the kitchen during a holiday gathering, my father's thoughtful nod confirming how little regard they had for my judgment. Incidents piled up like unpaid debts. In early 2019, Brooke announced her engagement to Derek, and my parents immediately started planning a wedding budgeted at over $200,000. When I mentioned my lingering student loans and asked for advice, my mother sighed and told me to focus on being happy for my sister instead of centering myself. 2 weeks later, when Brooke casually mentioned needing funds for an extravagant honeymoon in the Maldives, they wired $15,000 without hesitation. The same month my car broke down requiring a $2,000 repair. I asked my father for a short-term loan with interest. He lectured me sternly about personal responsibility and financial discipline. I maxed out a credit card and survived on instant noodles for months to cover it. The emotional toll reached a breaking point during a tense family dinner in June 2020. I finally voiced the double standard I had felt my entire life. My voice trembled as I described how Brooke's every setback drew the family together while my struggles were dismissed as sensitivity. My mother set her wine glass down with exaggerated care and told me I had always been too emotional, that not everything was a personal attack. When I pointed out the hypocrisy, my father cut in to defend Brooke, saying her needs were simply different. The table went silent. Brooke examined her nails while Derek smirked behind his napkin. My mother declared we had enough drama for one evening, and the conversation ended just like that. My feelings swept aside once again. Through all of this, I kept my head down and worked harder. But I also began quietly building something of my own. In 2018, I launched Evergreen Nest LLC, an online boutique selling high-end sustainable home goods, handcrafted organic cotton throws, ethically sourced ceramic dinnerware, and custom furniture pieces made from reclaimed wood. What began as weekend therapy grew steadily. I kept my involvement completely private, using a separate LLC and never listing my name publicly. My family had no idea. After years of having my successes minimized or compared unfavorably to Brooke's follower count, I wanted one corner of my life that belonged only to me. By 2022, I had received a significant promotion at my firm, becoming one of the youngest senior analysts managing multi-million-dollar portfolios. When I shared the news at another family dinner, my mother's response landed like a slap. "That's nice,
Dear.
but you'll never match Brooke's real influence." At that time, Brooke had around 50,000 followers and received occasional free products from smaller beauty brands. I had just been handed responsibility for a $50 million client portfolio. The dismissal stung, but it also fueled my resolve. I pushed back more firmly against the gaslighting. When my father transferred $5,000 from my old college account without permission to buy Brooke a luxury handbag, I confronted him directly. He waved it off as family sharing and joked about adding me to the Christmas card. I demanded my money back. My mother intervened, calling me dramatic and insisting family helped family. Yet they never extended that help to me. The pattern of emotional neglect and financial exploitation continued until the breaking point arrived in March 2023 at our annual family reunion held at the prestigious Rosewood Country Club. 52 relatives gathered under my mother's meticulous direction to project the image of a perfect family. The conversation turned to my late grandmother Evelyn's will. Grandma Evelyn had been the only one who truly saw me, praising my work ethic and quiet determination. She had left me $30,000 specifically. My mother announced loudly that they had decided to redirect my portion to Brooke because she and Derek were planning to start a family. The table fell silent. I felt every eye on me. When I protested that it was Grandma's explicit wish, my father claimed they had legal discretion and the family lawyer had already prepared the documents. No one spoke up for me. My cousin Lily looked away uncomfortably. The lawyer became suddenly fascinated by his water glass. Brooke placed a protective hand over her flat stomach and guilt-tripped me about my future niece or nephew. My mother snapped that the family didn't need my drama. I excused myself quietly, walked to the parking lot, and sat in my reliable but aging sedan with my heart hammering. I called my mother hoping for a private reason, but she cut me off, repeating that I was overreacting and that Brooke needed the money more. The call ended abruptly. Sitting there alone, something fundamental shifted inside me. I realized I was disposable to them, an afterthought whose feelings and rights could be overridden without consequence. That night, I made a silent vow. I would no longer seek their approval or remain silent about the years of manipulation. In the weeks following the country club reunion, I withdrew from family events, using work as my shield while I began methodically gathering evidence. Bank statements showing unauthorized transfers, emails and text messages documenting belittlement and favoritism, and documentation proving the illegal redirection of my inheritance. One particularly damning discovery came in early 2024 when my father tried to freeze my credit cards from an unrecognized device. The bank alerted me, and I found a misdirected email chain between Derek, my parents, and discussions about applying financial pressure to force me back into line. I forwarded it to myself for safekeeping and immediately moved all remaining funds to new accounts at different institutions. Throughout this period, my family still viewed me as the struggling disappointment, unaware that Evergreen Nest LLC had expanded dramatically. What started as an Etsy side project had become a thriving brand featured in major publications like Architectural Digest and Better Homes and Gardens. We partnered with ethical manufacturers nationwide, and our products appeared in upscale boutiques across the country. In parallel, I had made smart investments through a boutique firm specializing in sustainable tech and startups. My portfolio had grown substantially, and I held silent partnership stakes in 3 popular Chicago area restaurants that had become local favorites. Additionally, I had collaborated on developing a user-friendly financial wellness app for young professionals, earning ongoing patent royalties. Quietly, my net worth had reached nearly $3 million, a reality that would have stunned the people who still saw me as the family failure. By March 2024, I consulted a respected family law and financial fraud attorney at Ellis & Partners. The senior partner, Laura Ellis, reviewed my documentation with clear concern and confirmed that the unauthorized account access, inheritance redirection, and attempted credit freeze constituted actionable financial abuse and fraud. She outlined options including civil litigation, cease and desist demands, and potential criminal referrals. Asked her to prepare everything, but hold off on filing. I needed the right moment to deliver the truth with maximum impact. That moment arrived when Brooke announced an elaborate reproposal from Derek with an even larger ring, requiring a grand engagement party. The event was scheduled for early June 2024 at the opulent Crystal Ballroom of a historic downtown Chicago hotel. It would host 150 guests including family, friends, and Brooke's influencer circle. In the months leading up, I prepared meticulously. I commissioned a custom designer gown from a brand that had previously rejected Brooke's brand ambassador applications. I booked professional styling and made sure I projected quiet confidence rather than the subdued version of myself they expected. I also found unexpected support from my supervisor at the firm, who had overheard several abusive calls from my mother and witnessed the toll the family dynamic took on me. When I confided my plan, she offered both emotional encouragement and practical advice, reminding me that I had built my career and life with integrity. Her words strengthened my resolve. The night of the party, I arrived fashionably late at 8:30, half an hour after the festivities began. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, towering floral arrangements in Brooke's signature blush and ivory, and champagne towers. My parents had spared no expense. As I entered, heads turned. My mother froze mid-laugh, her expression tightening when she realized I had not RSVP'd and clearly was not expected. I approached the family group with a polite smile. "Sophia," my mother said, her voice strained. "What a surprise. I wouldn't miss celebrating my sister," I replied smoothly, congratulating Brooke while noting her suspicious glance. I did look different. The apologetic daughter they had grown accustomed to dismissing had been replaced by someone poised and self-assured. My father approached cautiously, champagne in hand. "We weren't sure you'd make it. I've been working on something special," I told them. A surprise for the happy couple. A shadow of concern crossed his face, but he recovered quickly. I had coordinated in advance with the hotel event coordinator, offering a generous gratuity for a special presentation slot as the bride's sister. At 9:45, the coordinator took the microphone and announced my presentation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as I walked to the small stage. Brooke whispered urgently to Derek. My parents exchanged alarmed looks. "Good evening," I began, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. "For those who don't know me, I'm Sophia Bennett, Brooke's older sister. I've always believed family should be built on honesty, respect, and mutual support. Unfortunately, that hasn't been my experience. And tonight it's time for the truth." I nodded to the technician. The projector screen lit up behind me with a first highlighted bank statement showing the unauthorized $5,000 transfer. I explained the transaction calmly, noting it funded a luxury gift for Brooke without my consent. Gasps echoed. The next slide displayed the email chain about freezing my cards to exert control. More shocked reactions. I continued through slides documenting years of manipulation, emotional invalidation, and the illegal redirection of Grandma Evelyn's $30,000 bequest. But perhaps most surprising, I continued as the room fell into stunned silence, is what my family never bothered to learn about me. The following slides revealed revenue charts and press features for Evergreen Nest LLC, investment summaries, restaurant partnership documents, app royalty details, and finally a summary showing my current net worth approaching $3 million. While they had dismissed me as the family disappointment, I explained I had built a thriving business and investment portfolio they never asked about. Their conviction that Brooke was the successful one had blinded them to the truth. I looked directly at my sister and noted that her influencer image of family harmony and authenticity was funded in part by money taken from me and by our parents' disproportionate support. Brooke's face twisted with rage. She shouted that everything was fake and that I was lying. I assured the room that every document had been verified by legal experts. The final slide displayed contact information for my attorney Laura Ellis and announced a $600,000 lawsuit for financial fraud, emotional distress, and related claims. Cease and desist letters had already been served to their addresses. My father stepped forward, face pale, pleading for a private conversation and insisting there was no need to air family matters publicly. I responded calmly that for years they had controlled the narrative by keeping everything private. That ended tonight. From the back of the room, my Aunt Claire, my father's sister, who had quietly observed the family imbalances for years, stood up. She declared she had long suspected mistreatment and apologized for not speaking sooner. Several other relatives murmured agreement. The tide was visibly shifting. As I stepped down from the stage, the ballroom erupted into chaotic conversation. Some guests left immediately, uncomfortable with the unfolding drama. Others began taking discreet photos and videos, which I had anticipated would spread quickly. My mother intercepted me near the exit, hissing that I had ruined everything. I looked at her steadily and replied that the ruin had begun years earlier when they decided I was not worth equal love and respect. I walked out of the crystal ballroom with my head high, leaving behind the shattered illusion my family had maintained for decades. The immediate aftermath hit fast. Within days, Brooke lost more than 100,000 followers as clips and screenshots circulated across social media. Her curated image of perfect family values and authenticity lay in ruins. Several brand partnerships dropped her, citing misalignment with their values. My parents faced not only the impending lawsuit but also swift social ostracism within their circles. Longtime friends became unavailable for events, and the community they had cultivated began whispering about the scandal. Derek distanced himself rapidly. 3 weeks after the party, Brooke tearfully posted that they had decided to pause their relationship. In truth, Derek had calculated that remaining tied to the family drama would harm his professional reputation and career trajectory. So he exited at the first sign of real trouble. My mother left numerous voicemails ranging from tearful apologies to angry accusations. I directed all communication through my attorney and did not respond personally. The most surprising development came in late July when my father emailed not to apologize, but to inform me that he and my mother were filing for divorce. The public humiliation and mounting financial and emotional strain had fractured their 35-year marriage. Each blamed the other for the situation with me, yet neither accepted personal responsibility. By August, I had decided to relocate from Chicago to Seattle. The city held too many painful associations, and Seattle offered fresh opportunities to scale Evergreen Nest LLC further. I purchased a light-filled condo with sweeping views of Puget Sound and began constructing a life deliberately separate from my toxic family history. Brooke, her influencer career in tatters, eventually took a retail position at a major chain store. According to my cousin Lily, who maintained occasional contact, Brooke remained resentful and blamed me entirely for her changed circumstances. She had moved back in with our mother, who struggled to maintain her previous social standing after the divorce and scandal. My father, now living alone in a much smaller condo, reached out several times attempting reconciliation. His messages appeared motivated more by belated recognition of my financial success and potential benefits to him than by genuine remorse. He had realized too late that nurturing our relationship might have served his interests. I chose not to respond. Some bridges, once deliberately burned, cannot and should not be rebuilt. Instead, I focused on cultivating chosen family, close friends and supportive colleagues who valued me for my character rather than what I could provide or how I made them appear. A particularly meaningful connection formed with Ryan Mercer, a thoughtful business consultant I met at a Seattle networking event. Unlike others who had learned of the scandal through media, Ryan had no prior knowledge of my story and held no preconceptions. When I eventually shared what had happened, his response was straightforward and affirming. They had lost someone exceptional, and that loss was theirs alone. Over time, our friendship deepened into a genuine romantic partnership. Ryan proved steady, kind, and consistently honest, qualities my family had never demonstrated. With him, I rediscovered the ability to trust and to believe that relationships could be built on mutual respect rather than transaction or condition. In October, I received an unexpected email from the family lawyer who had been present at the country club reunion. He was retiring and wished to clear his conscience. He admitted he should have spoken up that day, confirming that my grandmother had been explicit in her wishes and that redirecting the inheritance had been wrong. He enclosed scanned copies of the original will and notes from meetings with Grandma Evelyn. She had written in her journal about her pride in me, describing my determination and independence as qualities she admired deeply and believed would carry me further than anyone expected. Reading those words brought tears. They reaffirmed a connection that transcended the betrayal. By November, I had opened a flagship retail location for Evergreen Nest LLC in downtown Seattle and launched a new collection emphasizing sustainable materials and ethical labor practices. The business continued to exceed expectations, now employing a dedicated team of 15 people who shared my vision. The lawsuit against my parents settled out of court in December. They agreed to pay the full $600,000 plus legal fees and signed binding agreements prohibiting public disparagement or interference in my affairs. While the monetary amount mattered less to me now that I was financially secure, the formal acknowledgement of wrongdoing provided essential closure. As the new year approached, I reflected on the journey that began on that rainy birthday evening. What had felt like an ending proved to be the catalyst for reclaiming my power and authoring a new chapter. My family had banished me believing I was worthless, never suspecting I would become the architect of their unraveling. They had tried to erase me, inadvertently freeing me to discover my full potential and build authentic connections. On the anniversary of the ballroom confrontation, a small package arrived at my Seattle address containing my grandmother's sapphire ring, a cherished heirloom that had been given to Brooke instead. A note from my Aunt Claire accompanied it. This always belonged with me. I slipped the ring onto my finger, feeling a profound sense of completion. The broken circle of family had reformed around those who recognized my worth. That evening, as Ryan and I walked along the waterfront, he asked about the ring. I explained it served as a reminder that sometimes losing what you thought defined you allows you to find what truly matters. When he asked what that was, I considered the empire I had built through perseverance, the self-respect I had reclaimed, the peace found in distance from toxicity, and the real relationships formed with people who saw me clearly. Authenticity, I answered, living truthfully even when difficult. As the sun dipped behind the Olympic Mountains, painting Puget Sound in vivid oranges and pinks, gratitude washed over me. My family had thought they were ending my story by banishing me on my birthday. Instead, they had begun their own downfall and my genuine beginning. My name is Sophia Bennett, I am 33, a successful entrepreneur in Seattle. I no longer believe family is everything by default. I believe truth, integrity, and chosen connections are everything. And my truth has finally set me free.